the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
All right. Hello. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Marriage Unhindered. I'm your host, Doug Hinderer, licensed marriage and family therapist. Does anybody have this thing figured out, how to manage life in this chaotic world? Well, possibly. Today, I'm going to talk with Mike and Alicia Hernon, who founded the Messy Family Project. Now, if you have more than 0 children, you understand what the term messy family is all about. And, they'll probably be the first to tell you that they don't have all the answers. But I will tell you, they got a bunch of them. And we'll hear some of what they have to say, especially around the area of marriage here in just a minute. Welcome, Mike and Alicia. It is great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Doug. It is a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
This is great. Now, I first heard about the Messy Family Project probably close to a year ago, not quite, maybe, but I was invited to conduct a parent date night for a group down in Alton, Illinois, which is just across the river from St. Louis. And I'd been down there the year before. I did a date night, and I guess it went well enough. They invited me to come back. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll be happy to come down. And I have a daughter that lives in St. Louis, so I could, that's kind of fun. I can spend some time with her. So they said, this time, Doug, we'd like you to incorporate this worksheet called the Family Board Meeting. And I'm like, I said, I've never heard of the Family Board Meeting worksheet. And they said, well, it's the Messy Family Project. Well, I never heard of those guys either. So they sent me a copy of the worksheet, and I looked up, and I'm like, this stuff is really good. And so I was able to
thank you.
Make some of my comments. They used your worksheets, and it was fun because whenever I'd give them a break to do something on the worksheet, like they didn't want to come back. It just stimulated so much good conversation in the couple that I was really kind of unnecessary. They didn't need me there at all.
That's perfect. Well, sometimes that's all that we feel like we are, is conversation starters. With our podcast and everything else, our worksheets, our courses. Our hope is we just start that conversation. So it's really great.
Yeah, I always say when the couple comes together before the Lord and the power of the Holy Spirit, that's when the magic happens. Right there. The couple before the Lord.
Yeah, for sure. And that's right. And as you know, couples spend so little time together these days that they just don't have time. They don't have these conversations, right? So tell me a little bit about Messy Family Project. How did it come about? What's it all about? What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Give me some of the background on it.
We had actually all of our parenting decisions really set out in a very clear and uniform fashion. We knew exactly what we're going to do in every situation. Until we actually had kids. So we've been married 30 years and we have 10 kids. And so therefore that makes for messiness, right? This came from a heart that we wish we had an older brother or sister, someone to turn to when we were first married, to kind of mentor us, to help talk through things. So my wife and I are both kind of verbal processors, and we had young couples coming to us often, looking for advice, looking for encouragement. And so we started the podcast almost coming up on 9 years right now. It just kind of exploded because there was a real need. There was a hunger for people to say, how do we get it right? They feel like they don't know how to do parenting, to do marriage, do family life. And they feel like they're either overwhelmed, ill-equipped, or alone. And we step in.
Or all of the above.
Resources.
I think, throughout our marriage and raising our kids, we're both like kind of big researchers and readers and like kind of gathering information. And there were so few resources for Catholics. The Protestants have really got us beat on this one about talking about raising kids and a very practical, good advice in that way. Yeah. And so when we got to the point in our lives where we had adult children and then started to get married, we realized, you know what, we have something to give at this point. We could give young couples today what we wanted and did not have. And so we've tried to kind of articulate certain principles that we've found to be true. Yes. But they're really one of the hearts of the Messy Family Project is not to tell parents, this is the perfect plan, but instead to empower parents to embrace family life as a sacred calling. This is their path to holiness. And with that comes two things. It comes, first of all, the confidence that God is going to give you the grace, right? He's going to give parents the grace, as hard as it is, that he will show up when they ask him. But also it gives you humility to realize that it's a calling. like, this is something that is a very, very serious responsibility, and we need to approach it with that humility and confidence, both of those things. So we try to kind of walk alongside parents, give them some tools and empower them to be who God wants them to be.
I mean, it's a sacred calling, and and you realize it when that first child arrives, and you look at that child and you say, man, I can really mess this up bad. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
Right?
So true.
Holy smokes. And it's like, I'm not going to, of course. I'm going to be the perfect father. But I could, turn her into a mass murderer or something if I wanted to.
That's right.
And it is scary. And I remember driving home at 2 a.m. from the hospital after our first child was born, just white knuckling, the steering wheel, thinking, oh, I am so not ready for this. I have no idea where to go and what to do. And
yes.
Talk to me a little bit about the resources that you have for married couples, and do you do any work with engaged couples as well? So let's talk about the marriage aspect.
Yeah. So our focus, the audience that we really have a heart for, is married couples with children in the home. So as far as resources, we have our podcast. Then we have downloadable guides, kind of like the free family board meeting guide that you found, which is super cool. But then we also have courses that we offer. So we do live courses on the family board meeting. We have actually a webinar coming up. So even though this wasn't planned, I will take this moment to pitch our webinar. So I'm doing a free webinar for mothers of daughters who are getting ready for the teen years. So really any mom of daughters who is like kids who are 7 and up.
But we also do public date nights as well as marriage getaways. And like a public date night, we just had one with Art and Lorraine Bennett about temperaments in your marriage and your family culture and about how that works in building and strengthening that. And we had a couple hundred couples.
And people can listen and chat us questions that we would ask Art and Lorraine. Oh, it was such a great, it was a great interview. They are amazing people.
And then we do these getaways. We're doing 2 a year. Where it's kind of a mix between a spiritual renewal and a romantic vacation. So we call it a getaway, but like our focus is on strengthening our primary vocation as married couples, as parents, leaders in the home. That's our real heart and our real focus.
And messyfamilyproject.org, if people go there, we have a monthly newsletter that goes out because we're creating new resources and stuff all the time. Yeah. And so if anybody's interested, they can go there and get monthly updates about our courses and getaways and fun stuff like that.
Everything we share, we've stolen from somebody else. Right? We all the good stuff. We're trying to pass on, so you can steal it from us and pass it on.
I do.
For
I will.
All the listeners, sure. Right?
Yeah.
Well, you and anybody else. Right? But you know this. But it's about investing time, dating your spouse. That we need to make sure we're always pursuing them. They talked about it and they said, and if you can't point to how you're pursuing your spouse, and I think this is, I have had many husbands tell me, it is your primary duty to pursue your spouse. Yeah. It is your primary duty to do that. And make sure you can look at your day-to-day and week-to-week calendar and say, this is how I am do an examination of conscience in the beginning. Mm-hmm. How am I spending time letting my wife know she is my delight, that she is my lover, that she is my bride? Yeah. When's the date night? When are we taking time for some crucial conversations? When am I getting to know her heart more and making sure that she knows emotionally, physically, even spiritually in some ways, that we're there as bride and groom, before everything else, because which is kind of related, but it's kind of a different part, that if you want to be a great parent, you need to be an amazing spouse. Oh, yeah. And that really flows one from the other. And you need to have marriage foundational for you to give.
I couldn't agree more. And one of the things that I told my boys when they were teenagers, I said, boys, here's what you need to understand. Your mother comes first. If the house is on fire and I've only got time to pull one person out, I'm pulling your mother out, not you. You're going to be toast. And they're like, seriously, Dad? Oh, I don't even have to think about it, son. I'm pulling your mother out. Now, if I've got time to save 2 people, now I'm going to decide which of you I like better. But for the way it stands, your mother's coming out. And you're not. I will say, I'm a marriage therapist by training. At least this is my second career in life. And the thing that I ask my couples to do, which seems to be the hardest thing on the planet, is to make a 1% investment in their marriage each day. Just 1%. And they're all like, yeah, I'll give 1%. Well, that's about 15 minutes of your day. And to ask them to set aside 15 minutes every day to connect just the two of them. No screens, no kids, just the two of you. How was your day? Affirm, praise, love, nurture. They all come back and say, we couldn't do it. We tried. We did it once. And it's so hard to make that commitment. But man, if you can, the dividends are phenomenal.
Yes.
Right. The example that I'll give sometimes to moms, I'll say, okay, so those of you who are like nursing moms, would you, at the end of your day, would you ever be like, oh my gosh, I never fed the baby today. I just couldn't fit it in. I just couldn't do it. No, mom, no moms, whoever come to us are ever going to say that, right? No, why do you make that 15, 20 minutes to sit down with your baby in your arms? Why do you do that? Because it's a priority.
Yeah.
You say, I have to do this. This child's life depends on it. And I will tell you that your child's life depends almost just as much upon your marriage.
Yeah.
We have this dichotomy that I'm sure was introduced a long time ago, but the one who made it really famous, was Stephen Covey, talking about the urgent versus what is important.
Oh, yeah.
Right? A lot of times with young married Catholic couples who, God bless them, are open to life. They're swimming in children. They're totally overwhelmed. Like we that's like 90% of our audience, right?
Yeah. Oh, great.
Is these, and we just love them. I just love them so much. But the thing is that so many of them are spending so much time on what is urgent. What is urgent? The needs of the children.
Yeah.
The needs of the children are always urgent, and they are important as well.
Yeah.
But the thing is that your marriage is never urgent.
Yeah.
Your marriage is never urgent. When your marriage is urgent is when someone says, I want a divorce. Then all of a sudden, then the house is on fire, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that your marriage is always important. And so you have to organize your life, prioritize your life, live in an intentional way that you are taking the time for what is the most important thing in your family.
Yeah. Yes,
is your marriage.
Yeah,
because without that, your children are not going to flourish.
No, not even close.
They're just not. There's a beautiful ministry that Mike is on the board of that helps adult children of divorce.
Oh, man.
And one of the terms that they use is that talk about the couple love of a mom and a dad. And so children need mom's love, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they need dad's love. But there's like a third love in there, which I think is theologically even correct, that there's a unity, a palpable unity between mom and dad. That couple love, children need to bask in the couple love of their parents.
What?
It's such a beautiful image. And I know that I've seen it even in my own children. Do you ever hold a baby or hold a toddler and sometimes, or they'll reach out for mom, dad's holding them and they reach out for mom. They want you to hold them at the same time,
Yeah.
That's a symbol of the Trinity though,
exactly.
right?
And they want that. They want that mom and dad love.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing we found, and I'm sure you experienced it. Every couple I've talked to said, oh, yeah, we experienced this. But, especially when we had younger kids. But, we'd be in the kitchen and I would give my wife a hug. And pretty soon one of the kids would spot it. And they'd come running in. They'd want to get in on the hug. And then another one. Now pretty soon you got 6 kids. You're starting to tip over. You're losing your balance, right? Because, the love is just contagious, right?
It is.
But if mom and dad are arguing and grousing at each other, the kids are going to a different room. They're not coming into they're leaving that thing.
And there's just a power. Social science research points to the power that the coupleness, the unity of mom and dad have on the kid, whether it be in their psychological, their emotional, even their physical development, right?
Yeah.
There are studies that actually, as we spent time researching this, we're like, there is a power that I don't think we understand that can be exhibited in a very human level that parents exude. So Alicia said this earlier, but it bears repeating. Your kids' needs are always going to be urgent, but your marriages are not urgent until it's in crisis, right? So but it's always important. And so spending the time, getting to better levels of communication, getting to greater unity, getting to greater love in your home is going to have a rippling effect that you will have no idea the bounds that it will be, because better than any marriage prep out there is you, mom and dad, showing your kids, this is what marriage looks like.
Yeah.
You're raising them in a culture, in a home, because there are fundamental needs that your kids have. And every child has a right and a need for mom and dad to be present in their growing up, and for that couple love to be, as Alicia said, basking in the glow of the couple love of mom and dad.
Yeah. And
it's so important.
I agree. And I would really emphasize the word you said when you said they have a right to having both parents at home. They do have a right to that. They absolutely have a right to that. And, we see so many people who throw their marriages to the, off to the side for some pretty silly reasons, and they are robbing their children of something that they have a right to.
That's right.
And they're doing it for selfish reasons or whatever it is. They think they're justified. This entire episode of Marriage Unhindered is on the updated Relevant Radio app. The Relevant Radio app is completely free and updated daily with fresh articles, podcasts, and prayers.